Today, we're going to talk about tomorrow. That makes sense? Today, everybody say today. We're going to talk about tomorrow. And add like 3 question marks. So, tomorrow. Question mark, question mark. And the reason why, first of all, the Lord put it on my heart a few days ago. And then last night kind of verified it, right? And as a minister, as a pastor, we're exposed to a lot. And then on top of that, being a chaplain, exposed to a lot. And a lot of times, I go out on calls that are not easy. Last night was one of them. This week, I've had some others talk to that are facing death, cancer, final stages, going into rooms and talking with people, ministering to families and stuff has become part of my life. But it's made me aware of a lot of things that a lot of people don't want to think about, don't want to deal with, rather put that out of your mind. And so that exposure has kind of helped me. Yesterday, my sister and her husband, right, that attend church here, his stepfather had a heart episode. I don't know whether it was severe arrhythmia or some type of disconnect in the heart signal. Just fell over without a heartbeat, unfortunately. And I'm saying this on your behalf. No one was there to do CPR. The EMTs did get there for 5 or 6 minutes, which is fast. Living where they live, that was still fairly quick. But having said that, practically speaking, here's a nurse, she'll tell you, my daughter's a nurse, she'll tell you, every family ought to be taught how to do CPR.
Amen.
You hear me? And it's a good thing. So take that. We might sometime bring a class here. Would that be all right? Yes. Right? It's changed over time, too. So if you got trained years ago, it's changed. And now they do no rest in between the compressions. You do your compressions to stay alive, stay alive. True. It's true. Very, very many compressions real quickly. So anyway, having said that, got into the hospital, struggling, posturing, possibly brain damage, may not survive. So you go through this dialogue, with people, and it's always amazing to me how surprised we are when we get there. That can happen. We're always questioning God about it. What does this mean? Why did you do this, God? Anybody recognize what I'm saying? It's just being human, right? We think these thoughts. Why? Larry works at a funeral home, he can tell you. These are just human responses. Why would God do this? Why does God do these things? Right? We're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about tomorrow, and the way we approach tomorrow, and the way that we approach death. Maybe you have a good approach, and maybe you don't. Maybe it's something you don't like to think about either. We all like to put things off, right? And that's one thing we'd like to put off forever. And most of us, since the time we were a child, we can't imagine ourselves dying. In our mind, our physical body's just going to last. There's going to be tomorrow, and there's going to be the tomorrow after tomorrow. But the truth of the matter is, in this size of room with this many people, somebody's not going to be here next year. That's just the truth. I was talking to a lady the other day at the Harley Davidson dealership, and she'd come from a similar background, you know, at church camps and things. She said she's getting a little older now, and her husband, he grew up around this real strict church, you know. So we had a conversation, and we were talking about the Lord, getting him back to God, and different things. And we talked for some time. It was really a neat conversation, and I remarked to church because church was there. We got in the car, and I was talking about how neat I felt like the conversation was, and it was a God moment. And then the other day, I get on Facebook, and I see that there's this horrendous accident. And so I said, you know, getting a hold of people, look, you got this guy's number. So it was his wife, the one I was talking to. And down in Tennessee, she's going around a corner, got run off the road and into a guardrail she went. She's had 2 surgeries. She's really struggling. So I finally got this guy's number, and I'm talking to him about life. I said, look, I felt like the Lord had given us this time to share your wife and I. I said, I felt like it was a God moment, and I said, I'm going to tell you something. We talked about you. And I used another person that was going through struggles. I said, listen, this person's had to deal with life and death. And I said, right now, you are. And he was sharing with me, you know, he said, I always put her in my rearview mirror, which hit home. Get that little brown-eyed girl that rides behind me on her own bike sometimes, scared the liver out of me. And I had a talk with her last night. I said, amen. But life has to be gone like that. That's right. We're here and then we're not here. Right. And it's a mystery to us. It's not to God. I want to read this from Job. First of all, there's some interesting concepts I want to talk about. Do you know that your days are numbered? Say it, my days are numbered. You don't know the number. It's like the coming of the Lord. We don't know when, but we know He's coming, right? You don't know the number of your days. And then a lot of times they'll say, well, you got 2 weeks to 6 months to live. Nobody knows. Because a lot of times those people live for 3, 4, 5 years, 10 years, sometimes for a long time, right? Sometimes they're gone the next day. But God knows. Say it with me. God knows. And this is what Job said. Job 14, verse number 1. A person who is born of a woman is short-lived and full of trouble. Hit the nail on the head, right? A little different translation than your King James, but it's still fairly similar. Man born of a woman is but a few days and full of trouble. He comes up like a flower, he then withers. He's like a fleeting shadow, he doesn't stay long. You observe this and call me to account to you. If only an unclean person could become clean, it is not possible. If the number of his days and the number of his months are determined by you, and you set his limit, he cannot go past it. He says, God, you're the one that sets our time on the earth. Our days are numbered. The days, the months, you know, you've set that. The bounds of the habitation of time has been set by God. All of it. All the essence of it has been set by God. Everything has a schedule. You're on a schedule. Turn to somebody and say, you're on a schedule. I don't like schedules. Matter of fact, I'm going to hate schedules. Because I'm a busy person. And I have people dictating to me events and times and things. And I have a calendar, and it changes all the time. And I have to get with Sister Tyner, and sometimes I goof up. Because they don't get stuff on the schedule. So if you want something scheduled, don't see me. See her. Then she does what she does best. I didn't say that. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. That did not happen.
She's very diplomatic.
I don't like schedules. But there is a schedule. And there is an appointment. Everybody say an appointment. Okay. Hebrews 9:27. And it is appointed unto man once to die. And after this, the judgment. Everybody say it's appointed. You have a course, you have a race. There's a finish line. For some of you, it's going to be sooner than later. Yeah, it is to finish well, right? I've got a baby in South Mount Cemetery in Newcastle. Baby. I've got a sister that's 6 years old. Buried out there in the same cemetery. I've got grandparents that lived into their 90s. We don't know the time of our life. We don't know how long we have. If I were to have you stand up and tell me, Selma, how long do you think you got? You don't know. How about Landon? What do you think about Landon? How long does Landon have? Could you tell him? Like I said, I brought him into this world, and I'll take him out. We don't know. You don't know. I don't know. Some of you got kids. Your kids are gone. They left the world before you did. I'm told that's one of the hardest things, right? Like I said, I've got a baby. But there is a set time for you and me. That's what we've got to contemplate. Tomorrow. What about tomorrow? What is there about tomorrow? How long am I going to be here? What's my responsibility then in thinking about this? How am I to live my life when I have to come to grips with that? Do I fear all the days of my life? Do I worry about death? Do I fret about dying? There's people that do. They walk in a phobia about death. It grips them so much they can't enjoy their life. And if that's you need to rebuke that. That's a spirit. And that needs to be supplemented and torn out of there and redone by faith. So that you live every day of your life by faith. And that you rejoice in Christ. When James talked about this, he kind of gives us an idea. Who was James? Somebody tell me who James was right here. He was what? Brother of Jesus. James is an interesting study. So is Jude. Right? Brothers of Jesus. Come to salvation after the cross. James becomes a leader of the church. Kind of overshadows Peter's role in the church. People started looking to James, and James writes some things that are very important. If you read the epistle, he says some really inspiring things and talks about some very important thoughts. One of them I'm going to read to you right here. He talks about the way we live our life. With the knowledge that life one day will end. How do we deal with that? How do we live our life? And we live in a world that has very little thought of tomorrow. Let me say this first. We live as though there is no tomorrow. We've wasted our natural resources. We've polluted our world. without any thought of the tomorrows. At least the Native Americans had that right. They understood preserving, taking care of for future generations. But where is that gone? That logic that we got cities now that you can't even drink the water. Whole cities having to drink bottled water in America. We got cancer zones now. Or if you live in this area, possibility is your kids are going to die with cancer. You're going to die with cancer because of where you live. Think about that. And it's because we live this lie in our mind that life is without consequences and we just live our life for today.
Amen.
We just do whatever we want to without any thought of anybody else or anything else. Because that's human nature. I want what's mine when I can get it. Reach for the gusto. Have it your way right away. This microwave, mall, Walmart mentality. So James says, here's the way we should live our life. You should know better than to say, today or tomorrow, we will go to that city, we will do this business, there for a year, and we'll make a lot of money. Now, this is hitting home, even with yours truly, right? I've been talking about this openly with the congregation. 60 is hit. Look at me. I'm old. So, what are we going to do? We go to the 1,000-degree pizza. We get a 10-inch pizza with cauliflower crust because it's healthier. We live longer. And then we go to Walnut Ridge and we look at trailers. Not because we're going to buy one, just because we're just going to walk around, walk off the pizza, and we're just going to talk about what we're going to do, how life's going to be. Janice and Larry, you wouldn't know anything about that. What we're going to do, where we're going to go, how we're going to live, what's the future going to look like for us. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do the other. I can tell you this in every respect, even when we were sitting down doing that, our conversation was always this. But what does God want? Where's God taking us? How is this going to relate to God? How is this going to relate to the ministry? What is this going to look like in our future? Because I've learned something, folks. You don't leave God out. You can say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to have that, and this is going to be my retirement, and I'm going to do this with that, and I've invested here, and I've done this, and I've done that, and I've done... But you don't understand, you're being foolish. No, I've been taught that's wisdom. Wait a minute, it's not wrong to lay back. It's not wrong at all. It's saying, this is what I'm going to do, and that's what I'm going to do, and this is the way life's going to be, and I'm going to do this for a while, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do the other, without saying, it's God's will. I was on the phone with a friend of mine. Nobody in this church. And been going through some things in his marriage. His wife's filing for divorce. His life's being turned upside down. Blaming God, blaming her, blaming the church, blaming everything else, and I've just been ministering. And he's, every time I say, you're right. But it's the human part of us, right? And so he's going through this thing, got a job offer. And he's really thinking about doing it. And it's going to be more money. It's going to have all these opportunities. And I'm listening to him. And that's what I do. I'm his friend. You know, when he gets a break in there, and now it's my turn to speak. Right? I said, wait, I'm missing something here. I didn't hear something from him. I said, you know what it is? Yeah. I said, right. You didn't say if it's God's will.
Amen.
Or I've prayed about this, and this is what I'm feeling from God. At that point, it was just, I think this is what I should do, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do the other. Sound familiar?
Yes.
It's that way in all of us, because that's our first instinct, is self-preservation, and not thinking about the will of God, and thinking about what we want, because we're human beings. We reach for the ice cream cone before we eat the entree, because we're human beings, and that's what looks good. I get so tickled at these kids when they go into the line on Wednesday night. Some of them are dessert hogs. And you parents know who I'm talking about.
That's right.
One little fellow the other day, he was in the line, and I'm telling you, he had every dessert that we had the day we were out there, and we had a bunch of dessert, and this guy had packed it on his plate. I said, man, you are a dessert connoisseur, right? I don't know where you understood what a connoisseur meant, but he got it. Yeah, I like dessert, I like pie and cake. Oh, man, you sure do. That's human nature, right? It's just, we want what we want. No consequences, nothing, we don't worry about that. But let me tell you, James said, what do you know about tomorrow?
Amen.
What do you know about tomorrow? What's going to come tomorrow? This family that I was talking about, that I was with yesterday, guy was walking through the house. Conversations had been normal. They'd been out to see family down in Florida just a few days before this. Everything fine. All the good things happen in life. And then, boom, guy falls over. What do we know about tomorrow? We don't know anything about tomorrow. We're not assured of tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen to us tomorrow.
Right.
How can you be sure about your life? You ever seen a human heart? It would do you good sometime if you could stomach it, to go through an autopsy. You say, Brother Tyner, I don't want to do that. Why would you tell me that I need to do that? Because to see a human body treated that way, just like it was an inanimate object, and have them pull organs out and look at them, the brain, for instance. You ever really looked at the brain and to reason that that is what's causing your body to think, see, smell, taste? Your memory's locked up in it, just like gobbledygook, just, and your heart. And to think about the hundreds of thousands of times it thinks.
Right.
You're sitting here right now as I'm talking, that little heart's going.
Yes.
That's going to last forever, right?
No.
One swift blow to the chest. One miscalculation by the brain to the heart. What happened to him was just, so far, all we know is a higher form of arrhythmias stuff. Truth is, it's going to happen to all of us, right? Your heart's going to stop. Everybody dies the same way. Their heart stops. It's going to happen to you. Say it. It's going to happen to me. I don't like to think about it, but it's going to happen to me. I don't know when. I don't know what's going to be that's going to be the thing. I could be out here today, leaving the church parking lot, get hit by a car. Right?
Right.
Right. The neighbor's pit bull could get loose. And play Count Dracula. Right? Yuck. But it can happen. There's a lot of things that can happen. We don't know. We don't know. And that's all James was saying. It is nothing more than just a mist. Life is just a mist that appears only for a little while and then it disappears. The old King James, life is but a vapor. It's the way it is. You're here for a little bit and then you're gone. In respect to eternity, this is just a tiny grain of sand on the seashore. Your little span of life here is not really what life is about, is it? This is only a proving time. We lose sight of that, and this becomes everything, and life becomes, all about what I can get, what I can, achieve, and all those kind of things. All the things I want to have happen, and that's really not where life is. And James is trying to get us to get on track. Don't you understand that this doesn't really even belong to you? You belong to God, and God has control. Amen. So you better get close to God, because He's got the key to all this, right? You don't even understand it. You don't want to think about it. You try to put it off. Because you're human. But God's got all of this. You should say, if the Lord lets us live, we will do these things. Yet you are stupid enough to brag, and it's wrong to be so proud. Yeah, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to, brings us to some more stories. Then this is what I'm going to do. The Bible says we're to go to the inn and observe, be wise. Because without any ruler or overseer, it provides its food in the summer, because winter's coming. We're to look at that and we're going to say, by that we can gain some wisdom, because we need to think about our tomorrows. We need to prepare our life. We need to get things ready, and we need to keep things in perspective. If it's God's will, God's the one that has control. All I'm to do is to do what I'm supposed to do. Nobody's going to make me do life right. Nobody has that authority over me. It's up to me to think. That's a dangerous proposition. It would be better if you were a robot and God made you do these things. But He's given you free will. And you have to think about it. Something you don't want to think about. You got to deal with something you don't want to deal with. You got to prepare for something that's hard to prepare for. And you got to finish your course. You got to do it because that's what you're supposed to do. Just like the ant. It's how God made this. I respect it. I do it because I know there's going to be a tomorrow. Jesus spoke to us about a rich man. I could read this. I'm going to paraphrase it, right? What did He tell us about the rich man? This guy was wealthy and he was enjoying the privileges of life because he was abundantly blessed. He was enjoying the fruits of his labor. Nothing wrong with that. Watch me. That's not where he sinned. That's not where he had a hard time with God. Where was it he goofed up? He said, tell you what I'm going to do. I am rich and increased with goods, and so this is what I'm going to do. Now we're starting to see error in his ways. This is what I'm going to do. He said, I'm going to tear down my barns, and what am I going to do? Tell me what he's going to do.
Build bigger.
I'm going to build bigger barns, because I got a bigger idea, a better and I'm doing great. I'm excited. The pride of life starts to kick in. This is what I'm going to do. I got all these plans, all these things, and I'm so happy. And then when I say this thing, and he even takes it to that next step. And folks, you should understand you can cross the line with God. And he said, I'm going to say to myself, so you have much laid up in store for you. It's time now just to eat, drink, and be merry. You're on easy street. You don't have anything to worry about. And then what did God say? He said, you're a fool. Because you didn't contemplate about your tomorrow. You didn't think about the fact you may not even be here tomorrow. He said, this night, your soul is required of you. I say, Pastor, why are you teaching us this? Because I want you to start thinking about your tomorrow. We don't have any control over it. That's what I want you to know. You don't have control over tomorrow. God has your tomorrows. Always has, always will. And you've got to deal with that fact in your life. I've got to deal with this correctly because I need that relationship with God. I need to think about the way I'm living my life today so my tomorrow will be okay.
Right.
And I don't need to be a fool in thinking that I have control over my life when I don't. My life is a gift from God. God has given me life and breath and all things. So He deserves the credit and the glory. And the way I live my life ought to exemplify my faith in Him, my trust in Him. But when I don't live that way, I'm slapping Him in the face. And my life is in peril. And I don't even realize how much I'm in jeopardy. Trusting on something that I have no control over. You ever get into a situation and feel uneasy because you don't have control over it? How many know what I'm talking about? Get on a roller coaster and you're at the top of the hill and you realize this is out of my control. And it's not like anybody never has fallen out of those things or something didn't break and the thing come off the track. Not like that. It never happened. And here I am and I don't have a lick of control at this moment. You've all been there pretty well, right? There's other things. You get in a car with somebody overseas, they're driving on the wrong side of the road. It will freak you out. And you realize, I watched Brother McNeely. He would always sit in the back seat. He said, brother, you can sit up here with the driver. First few times you did, you say, oh, now I understand. These many maxi vans have no front end. If we hit, I'm going to be the first one out the window. There I go. But McNeely was just being wise. No control. I don't have control. I don't have control. That makes me uneasy. I would rather think that everything's in control. But I don't have control. I live my life and I give it to God. And I say, God, here I am. I know that I have to trust you. You have my tomorrow. I don't know whether I'm going to wake up tomorrow. I don't know whether I'm going to be able to even enjoy my house this evening. I don't know what's going to happen. Beyond all of this, we know that He's coming after a church that has made itself ready, and we don't know when He's coming for the church. So that's just another component, right? How many times do we hear this preached anymore? How many messages have you heard lately on the soon coming of Jesus? Why? We live in a generation that doesn't want to hear that. We have preachers that are just the same as the people. They don't want to talk about it.
That's right.
No one can make an excuse. Well, people don't want to be scared into salvation. You don't scare people into salvation all the time. Wait a minute. Hold on here. Jesus spoke to us about being ready because we don't know the day or the hour. And if that's the way Jesus preached, we need to be preaching the same.
Yes.
You don't know. We need to be ready. He can come at any moment. And it was driven so much into me. I thought about that as a child all the time because it was preached all the time.
Right.
Some of you never heard me talk about this, so I'll share it. Some of you have been with me for a long time, you know. As a child, I was convinced the rapture was going to happen and I wasn't going to go. So if I come home and Mom and Dad wasn't there, I freaked out. I was frightened, scared. So I didn't call the sinners. So I knew they were going to make it anyway. So I called Grandma and Grandpa Tyner if I could get a hold of them. I get a hold of the pastor. And as soon as he'd answer, oh, I'm cool. I didn't even tell him who I was. Just hanging out. He's still here. I'm good. Didn't happen. Dodge that bullet. We don't know the day or the hour. We have some things that we can see, right? Jesus talked about wars and rumors of war. And today, you know, there's no major wars going on that's really affecting us so much. Or is there? Or is there? Nuclear bomb capability in China, France, Russia, United Kingdom, United States, India, North Korea, and Pakistan. Wrong person with the wrong idea. Pushing the wrong button. We can trust that dude over there in North Korea camp. He's on the up and up. He's going to get rid of those things. What do you think? They had us convinced while we were in school that Russia was going to bomb the daylights out of us, right? So we had nuclear bomb drills, and we would hide under our desk. Like that was going to help us. That bomb cannot get through that, you know, half-inch plywood. Earthquakes in diverse places. Until 1950, the average of major earthquakes was 2 to 4 in a year. 1950s, it went up to 9. 1960s, up to 13. 1970s, up to 51. 1980s, 86. 1990s, over 150. And it continues to escalate. Knowledge increased. Went from the horse and buggy to the moon in the last century. Cell phones now you carry in your pocket has the information to answer any type of question you might ask about any recorded human knowledge. Carry that in your pocket. My wife has finally learned how to talk to text. She thinks she's really smart now. She talks into this phone. That's all she does anymore. Who is she talking to? She's talking into her phone. Knowledge increased. Sure. Just think if the Lord tarries, what it's going to be in the next 10 years. Perilous times. Attitude of man is what Paul wrote about. All these things point to us that the Lord can come at any minute. The Bible says the night is far spent. Romans 13:11, knowing the times in which we're living, it's time to wake up. Our salvation is nearer than when we first believed. The night is almost over, the day is. So we should get rid of the things that belong to the dark and take up the weapons that belong to the light. We should live decently as people who live in the light of day. Wild parties, drunkenness, sexual immorality, promiscuity, rivalry, and jealousy cannot be part of our lives. So tomorrow, I don't know about tomorrow. I got stuff on my schedule for the rest of the year. What's that? Look at me. You young people. You don't know about tomorrow. Like I said, in a room of this size, somebody will be here next year. How many young people have we lost in the last 6 years? Out of this church. You don't know. You have no idea, no concept. One of the kids that I taught in youth class, very young, it's been many years ago now, I got a call. He died. He died? Are you kidding me? Brain aneurysm. Who would have thought? Don't. You say, don't scare me! I'm telling you the truth. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to get you to think that tomorrow doesn't belong to you.
That's right.
Amen.
You don't know about tomorrow. You're here on a wing and a prayer. That little tissue in your chest going boom, boom, boom. Impulses from that gobbledygook called a brain speaking to it to do its thing. And you think you're invincible. They've proven that with young people. Their brain is not fully developed until their mid-20s. So this idea of not being afraid of death, it's endemic to that group because it's not developed to that point where they even understand all the depths of that. That's why it's easier to get an army of young people. We send them off to war. Tell them to be brave. All the generals sit in a room. They count the statistics. You don't know about them. Close your eyes.